Welcome to the show. So, in the garage, it's raining outside, so I had to change the venue a little bit. Maybe you can hear it in the background, I don't know. It's kind of small, light raindrops, even though it's kind of sort of pouring-ish. They're just tiny, though. But I'm your host, John, and this is the Southern Constitutionalist. So, gonna try and keep things a little bit more on the local side today. But, so yeah, in the local news in the Charleston area, there's been more to do and I guess some protests talking about the Wright case and the new Charleston County Sheriff is still trying to play the blame game and say it's not her fault. The family is now, as well as a couple of, well, yesterday there was some kind of a speech or something given by a reverend from one of the local churches talking about they want charges pressed, criminal charges pressed. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this before. Everybody's admitted that the two detention officers who lost their jobs had over 15 years experience between the two of them. I believe one was on the job 10 years, one was on the job for over 5 years. And they followed standard operating procedure. They followed their training, which means that no, they should not have lost their job. But as far as criminal charges go, they should also be, they're supposed to be protected and have, I guess, amnesty, so to speak. But they're pushing for them to be charged anyway. In fact, the news was saying 9th District Court, I'm guessing that's for the state, is they're pushing for the DA to lose their job because the DA is like, there's not a reason to charge them. They want her out of office now. Well, if you look at the legal side of things, it doesn't matter if you get her to step down or be fired and somebody else comes in. They really and truly don't have legal standing to press charges against these two. I've said it once and I'll say it again. If you want to look back at where all of this started, the real and true mistake was made by the inpatient psychiatry unit. When I worked for MUSC and I was there at the Institute of Psychiatry, we didn't, even if we were pressing charges against a patient for something, or if a patient had charges pressed on them as they were coming in or before they came in or whatnot, we completed their treatment and they were arrested upon discharge. We didn't send them out to the jail. And so this facility that was treating this guy told the police they wanted him arrested and charged, and they wanted him removed that night. That's how he wound up at the jail. That's where your failures start. So the failure is on that facility, more so than City of Charleston or Charleston County PD. And to be perfectly honest, whenever these things happen, it's always a domino effect. There's that first step that leads to a domino effect of things going wrong, being done wrong, wrong actions taken, so on. So the question is, why are they so uppity about Charleston County and they're not uppity about the hospital and the decision that the hospital made? Just something to think about. All right, enough of that. Because I roll my eyes every time it comes on the news. I mean, the protests, rallies, whatever you want to call them, are annoyingly stupid. So, as a follow-up to a video about 2 weeks ago, Circle Back Psaki and Dementia Joe, Flip Flop Fauci, they were all pushing for masks on everybody, vaccinated, unvaccinated. Again, I believe I already told you guys this was going to happen. I know I said it on social media. And I don't know if I put it in one of these videos or not. Damn, I'm getting pudgy. Oh well. Old age. But yeah, they're pushing. And like I said, keeping things local. I'm part of a group that are, well, two groups actually. One of them's Patriots for the local area, and the other one is something about watchdogs for the local governance, I guess, town council and mayor, as well as school board. And there's actually a few people who've been talking locally about they want masks in the school. They want this and they want that. And there's even some people who are arguing for mandatory vaccinations. Okay, it's a small sampling size, but it's the same thing that's going on across the country. But again, I want to keep it local this time around. And so Governor McMaster came out and said, no, he's not going to mandate masks. It's not constitutional. And technically, it's not really enforceable. Well, to back that up, the state assembly for South Carolina passed a bill that stated the same thing. Masks will not be required, masks will not be mandatory, and masks will not be required in the schools, as well as fact teachers cannot require it in the classroom. The decision process will be left up to the parents of those kids. And that's exactly how it should be. If the parents want them to wear a mask, okay, fine, whatever. I feel sorry for the kid. If the parent doesn't want them to wear a mask, fine, cool. That's their choice. But I guess that also means for high school students, depending on age, that leaves the decision up to them, which is exactly how it should be. Just like the vaccine should be their choice, but it should be an informed choice. Know the goods, know the bads. Said it before, I'll say it again, I will continue to say it. They need to have a one-on-one conversation with their primary care, their doctor. Their doctor knows their medical history. Even if she doesn't know it off the top of their head, they can go back through their medical file because they have access to it. And despite what some people are saying, and despite what some government agencies are saying, both local government agencies as well as federal, the vaccine's not safe for everybody. There are people that have allergies to ingredients or something else medically wrong with them that it is ill-advised for them to have it. That's just the way it is with medication, all the way around. So, it's against state law for mask mandates. It's against state law for forced vaccinations. I'm not really sure, but I feel like it should be against state law for compulsory vaccinations. We already know that MUSC, the Medical University of South Carolina, has terminated the employment of 5 nurses who refused to get the vaccine, which I don't really understand because I've worked there. I worked there for over 7 years. My mother retired from there. Totally different departments, totally, well, not totally, slightly overlapping time frame, but not much. And she was telling me that they've terminated employment for such things previously. Well, MUSC is not a private company, it's a state entity. That would fall under compulsory or forced in my book. But I don't understand why they're pushing it this way, other than the fact that they're so extremely political and leaning to one side. Learned that real quick while I was working there. But when it came to the flu vaccines several years ago, even while I was working there, I left back in, I think, 2014. I left to change careers. They were trying to push the flu vaccine, but they couldn't legally terminate somebody's employment for not getting the flu vaccine if they were not getting it for certain reasons. And so their compulsory was, if you didn't take the flu vaccine, you had to wear a mask while you were on the clock or at the hospital during the flu season. Well, that being said, most medical facilities and providers are requiring you to wear a mask anyway. So why not just leave it at that instead of firing people? I mean, here's my question from EdU. If somebody talks to their doctor, their primary care, and their primary care says, I strongly recommend against you getting the vaccine because of X medical condition that you have, technically that means it means that they shouldn't, but it technically very well could mean they can't for one reason or another. So what are you doing for people in that situation? Are you still terminating their employment? And if you are, is that fair to them? Absolutely not. That's just how I look at it. So a lot of people are saying that critical theory, none of critical theory, that includes critical race theory, critical, I guess, LGBT theory, whatever, critical socioeconomic status theory, whatever else they may be. I'm pretty sure there's probably like 50 of them. They're saying that it's not being taught in schools. Well, the largest teachers union in the country, because a lot of people have said, we don't have teachers unions here. We don't have unions in South Carolina. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but we do. The difference is unions are not forced. You're not required to join them here. When I worked for UPS back in 2000, I had the option of joining the Teamsters Union. Many of the guys that I worked with did. I didn't. I don't like unions. I never have. I think in the beginning, the prospect and the idea of a union was very good, and it was needed at that point in time. But the unions have just become corrupt, and they've been grabbing power and money. They're not serving their actual purpose. So no, I didn't join the union, but the union was still required to cover me, help me out with grievances, so on and so forth, which I thought was really cool. But state regs required, if you're going to operate here, you're going to cover those that don't pay dues and don't join you anyway. because that's actually what you're there for. I loved it. Until I needed them and they didn't help. And then I was just like, okay, whatever. Their solution was, just go back to work, call it a misunderstanding. I looked at him, I was like, that person still works there, so nah, I'm not going to go back. I don't think so. And I just moved on. But going back to what I started with, the largest union in the country, they do operate here in South Carolina. Again, you're not required to join them. A lot of people join them anyway. God knows why. But the unions have been holding, or this particular union anyway, for teachers and educators, have been holding online classes on how to incorporate materials from critical theory into your lessons without it being labeled as critical theory for those states who have banned critical race theory. Well, South Carolina happens to be one of those who've said no to critical race theory. Now, the Assembly and the governor haven't turned around and, to my knowledge, looked at or reviewed educational materials and textbooks, which I don't think we're using textbooks anymore. I think everything's online because students are getting either data pads or laptops through the schools that have to be returned at the end of each year. Excuse me, sorry guys. But they're not really monitoring or talking about what the curriculum should be, what should be taught, and what should be avoided. And so we have these unions that, even though they're national, they do have influence here, and they actually have quite a bit of support from the teachers themselves, probably a bunch of their members. And some of them are being part of these classes and learning how to put this material into their lessons without it being labeled critical race theory. That's a problem. And if you're living here locally, this should concern you. That actually means that when your kids go back to school, you need to be paying attention to what it is that they're being taught. And if you talk to your child, regardless of the age, when they come home from school or you come home from work or both, and you ask them, what did you learn in school today? Let me see what your classwork was. Let me see what your homework is, although most of the schools here don't do homework anymore. Probably has something to do with CRT in my eyes. If your kid tells you, we're not supposed to talk about that with you, that's when you really need to be concerned. If teachers are telling the students to hide material or subject matter from their parents, to not discuss it and not tell their parents about it, there's a problem. There's a huge problem. And you need to be finding out what it is that they're being taught. And if your child won't tell you, go to the school. Because here in South Carolina, the educators are required to tell you what they're teaching their students when a parent comes and asks. And if they hide it from you and you find out later on, you can sue. I would like to say you could press criminal charges. I kind of have my doubts, but I think you should be able to. But yes, they're required to tell you, and if they don't, at the very least, you can sue the school. Now think about that. You can also, if you do have questions that they are not answering, You can also file a FOIA grievance and suit forcing the school to show you the curriculum and materials and subject matter that's being taught and discussed. I highly recommend doing that too. Kids are our future. Schools are being used as indoctrination camps. They're also breeding grounds for segregation and I guess, to use their terms, critical or for anti-racism, which sounds good, but when you go and look at what anti-racism means nowadays, it actually means racism. I know a lot of working parents and a lot of single parents don't have a lot of free time on their hands to go and look at this stuff, but I highly recommend getting more involved. Have discussions with your kids. Find out what's going on in their life, even outside of school and academics. Find out what them and their friends talk about. I've always believed in tough love, but I've also believed that your child should be able to come to you and talk to you about anything. That's just me. Not only do you need to tell them that, but you need to be able to make them feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you about anything that may be bothering them. Celebrate their wins with them. Comfort them, be their shoulder to lean on in their defeats or their struggles. Give them encouragement. The other thing we need to start paying more attention to is the sex education stuff. I'm not really sure what's going on here on that front, but out in Chicago, they've made it required for schools to offer condoms to kids as young as 10. Kids as young as either 5, 6, maybe 7 are starting to go through sex ed classes. I don't agree with that. Let kids be kids. They don't need to know anything about relationships. They don't need to know anything about boy-girl parts. They don't need to know anything about any of that mess. Kids are kids. Let them be a kid. Let them grow up correctly. Quit trying to take their innocence away from them. The younger age you take their innocence from them, kind of sort of knowledge-wise, the easier they will be for older people to manipulate later. Think pedophiles. 10 years ago, we had a growing surge of... Excuse me. 10 years ago, we had a growing surge of teachers who were having sex with their students, both middle school and high school. And believe it or not, the growing number were female instructors. And we also had a growing number of instructors who were molesting students in the elementary schools. Kind of makes me think of the pedophilia that was going on in the Catholic Church 15, 20 years ago. Which is still going on. They're just keeping it under the rug more now. But also a lot of those instructors, especially the females, got nothing more than a slap on the hand. I had to do a kind of sort of a report / research, something or other, for one of my criminal justice classes involving comparing convictions and sentencing for female academic offenders versus male academic offenders. And the females, a lot of them got a slap on the wrist. Some of them didn't even lose their teaching license. So they were just right back at it afterwards. These are the things that we need to watch out for. Children are precious. Their innocence is precious and important. And for those who prey on them, well, let me just say that there's a reason that the United States is #1 in child trafficking, human trafficking, and sex trafficking. And it's not a good reason. There's more child kidnappings here in the US that are taking overseas to other countries within very short periods of time, preventing them from ever being found, rescued. Two days ago, I had to go out to West Ashley for an MRI. And we made a couple stops on the way home. But while we were driving back to the house, we were in traffic and going slow. I noticed a mother walking through a parking lot with this little 18, 24-month-old kid toddling behind them while they were staring at their phone. They weren't next to him. Mom wasn't paying attention to the kid. Nothing. Kid wasn't even right behind him. Several steps back. Honestly, somebody could have, they were walking through the parking lot. Child could have been hit by a car. Mom's not paying attention. Somebody could have rolled up, grabbed the kid, opened the door to a car or van, grabbed the kid and taken off. Mom wouldn't have known until it was too late. Probably not even able to give a description of the vehicle. You gotta pay attention to your kids. You gotta be responsible. You are responsible for your actions. And it doesn't end just because they're a wee bit older. Yes, kids get more independence as they age, as they should. But that doesn't mean your job's over. You're their parent for life. I had another subject I wanted to touch on, but I can't think of it right now. It'll be all right. Okay, guys, so reach out. Give me a holler, let me know something you would like for me to talk about, subject you want me to touch on or whatnot, get my opinion on. If you have questions, they can be generalized, they can be personal. Hit me up. You can go to theconstitutionalconfederate.com, click on contact. Yes, I know, very controversial address. Still can't change it yet. You can go to anchor.fm, do a search for the Southern Constitutionalist, and click on voicemail. Leave me a voicemail or a suggestion. For those in the local area, I'm wanting to find people who would like to get onto the podcast and have a discussion about whatever. So if you're interested, if you have something you want to talk about, especially if it's locally, if it's a local matter or whatnot, or even just a local event that you want to talk about that you support, or charitable organization or whatnot, hit me up, let me know. You can comment below. You can find me on Twitter, The Southern Constitutionalist. You can find me on Instagram, Southern Constitutionalist. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Probably the best way to reach me is theconstitutionalconfederate.com. Click on contact, leave me a message. You can also find writings, blogs, story excerpts, and a bunch of other stuff. But you'll find that the videos and the blogs, the writings, the podcasts are all centrally located right there. Podcast you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a lot of other places that podcasts are published, I guess. I don't know, aired. Yeah, anyway. Hit me up. Let me know what you think. If you got critiques. If you like it, let me know what you liked. If you didn't like it, let me know what you didn't like. And I guess we'll go from there. Or we can go from there. If you guys want to try and get together, if you're local, and have a discussion for me to record or whatnot and put out there, love to hear from you. Let me know what you want to talk about. Hell, even if you don't agree with me, I'd love to hear from you and have a discussion with you even more. Thing is it has to be polite conversation, not a freaking argument or name calling, because that doesn't get anywhere. It's not what this is about. This is about civil conversations. You know, hopefully we'll find some common ground. Maybe I can teach you something. Maybe you can teach me something. There you have it. It's over 30 minutes already, so I guess that's enough. The rain is getting heavier, so I'll let y'all go. Till next time, y'all stay safe and watch your six.